What's up? Welcome back to another video. I'm selling all my current lenses and I'm switching over to these Viltrox lenses, the 35mm 1.2 lab lens, and then also the 85mm 1.4 pro lens that just came out. Now, why am I doing that? We'll get into that. But I already did a video on this 35mm lens. If you want to go check that out, it's up in this top corner here. I plan on doing a video about this 85mm lens later, but why am I switching? That's going to be the question that a lot of people are going to ask. So let me jump right into it. Well, before we get into the whys, I know you're probably curious what lenses I'm selling in order to go to the Viltrox lenses. And it's my Sigma 24-70, which I'm recording on right now. And I did a video on that lens too, if you want to check that out. It's an amazing lens, but I am really just a prime guy at heart, which is why I'm loving these Viltrox lenses. But yeah, if you want to buy this lens off me, let me know. Follow me down on Instagram, send me a message, and we can, work something out. But my 85 1.4 before the Viltrox one was a C-Ray 85 1.4, which was also an amazing lens. I just sold that one yesterday, but I just wanted to go with these. So with that being said, nice, what I'm selling and what I'm going to. Let's talk about why I'm doing this. And the number one reason why I'm selling all my current lenses and going to Viltrox solely is because of, for number one, the quality of the lenses. These are both, well, all, I can say all, but I'm talking about the ones I'm using currently, the 85 and 35. These are both very solid, all metal construction build lenses. Like, they're decently heavy, but weight is something that I can look past because of the quality of these lenses, and not just the build quality, but everything else that I'm going to talk about in this video. So like I said, they're all metal construction, and the customization on these lenses, from the F1, F2 custom functions, AF, MF switch, aperture ring, click, D-click, like everything is pretty much top notch for me. So when I look at quality of lenses, when it comes to build quality and the coatings and the elements that are inside and aperture blades, like, these hit everything on the head. Now, my Sur-Ray had more aperture blades. I had 15 versus the 11 on the Viltrox, but I can look past that as well because of all the other factors that Viltrox possesses that C-Ray didn't, and that a lot of other 85mm don't as well. So number one being the quality, number two being the price. So this 35mm 1.2, it doesn't have any business being this good at this price. So retail for this lens is $999. But if you're like me, you did a review on this lens because you rented it out for an engagement shoot and to do some other tests with it, just to get first glance at it. And then Viltrox runs a 20% off everything sale for Prime Day. And so the lens that's supposed to be $999 went down to $799. And then I had a discount code from Francisco Hernandez, who is a Viltrox ambassador, and I got an extra 5% off. So I got this lens for $760. Originally $1,000, originally $999, and I got it for $760. 1.2 aperture, and it's super, super sharp, wide open, and it's just like, what? Like, I mean, even if I was to get this at retail, it's still significantly cheaper than the 35 1.4 G Master. It's still cheaper than the 35 1.2 Sigma, and it's about the same price as the 35 1.4 Sigma. And so you're getting a lot better price, and you're getting substantial quality as well. I have not tested this amongst the Sigma 35-1.4 or the 1.2 or the Sony G Master, but from what I'm seeing for this lens, I don't got to see anything else, because the quality on this lens is absolutely ridiculous for the price. And then we talk about this 85 1.4. I got this lens, so retail is $598. And then, like I said, Viltrox ran that 20% off sale, and then Francisco gave me a 5% code. So I got this lens for $456 for an 85mm 1.4 fast aperture, right? And the C-Ray is $600, but on sale for $500. I think it's actually running for $480 right now. So I'm getting a significantly cheaper lens for double the quality. And when you talk about the 85 1.4 G Master 2, which is $1,800, close to $2,000, this performs exactly the same, like virtually the same. There are some differences, obviously, as you know, when you talk about third-party lens, you're going to have some differences here and there where for like build quality, autofocus, and stuff like that. This is a little bit heavier than the G Master lens and a little bit heavier than the Sirui lens. But when you talk about performance, I mean, it's just something that you can't pick this lens up and use it and say, how is this that good for $500? It's just impossible, impossible. But anyway, so quality and price, two of the main things that are encouraging my switch to Viltrox. The third thing that inspired this switch to Viltrox from everything else is the autofocus. So the Lab series, if you're not familiar with Viltrox, they have a Pro series, which is similar to the G line, and then they have the Lab series, which is similar to the G Master line. And they also have a series lower than that, which is the Air series, which still performs really, really good. But the Lab series uses a quad hyper VCM autofocus, and the Pro series uses the dual hyper VCM. And VCM stands for voice coil motor, which is a super fast autofocus system. If you are familiar with the new Canon lenses that came out, the 1.4s, they have the 24, 35, and the 50 1.4. They all use the VCM motor and really good autofocus, and so this uses the same autofocus. So the quad obviously has a lot more floating elements in it, and it's going to be a faster autofocus than the dual. But to get this fast of autofocus and this type of lens for this price is crazy. Now, the Sony G Masters use, I believe, an XD linear something autofocus, which if you're doing a lot of video work, I do still recommend you look at a Sony G Master, just because you're going to want, you know, focus breathing compensation, and you're going to want some other things that are really more so tailored to video as far as possibly holding you back. But if you're a photographer and you're not a sports photographer and you're like me, a portrait and wedding photographer, you're not going to really need 20, 30 frames per second. I know with these third-party lenses, you're limited to, you know, 10, 15 frames per second. My Sony a7 IV shoots 10 frames per second as is, so it's not like I'm being limited there. But the autofocus on these lenses, for it to be a third party and use the VCM motor or the voice coil motor for their autofocus, so it's super fast. Like for me being a wedding photographer, I can't risk missing shots. So the fact that this autofocus is in these lenses is crazy for this price and to have this quality. So another reason why I sold everything, or I'm going to sell everything and move to Viltrox. The fourth reason is firmware updates. The ease of use to update the firmware on these lenses is incredible. So when I first got these out the box, I updated the firmware, and the way that you do it is just so easy. You download the app, and then you connect just a random, it just needs power. The lens just needs power. So if you're like me and you have multiple power banks to choose from, I mean, I got batteries on batteries on batteries. Shout out to Ainu. They sent me all these batteries for review. They're all over my channel if you're curious to how they work. But all I gotta do is plug a USB-C cable into the lens. So each lens has a USB-C port right down here. And all I do is plug in a power source to a USB-C cable, download the app, and then I'm able to download firmware or update firmware wirelessly without having to, well, I guess not technically wirelessly, but through Bluetooth. And the firmware updates are, you know, significantly quick. I think it took me 20 seconds to update this firmware. And now this is a one-off. This isn't in my notes, but the Lab series lenses also have this screen in front. And this screen, you're able to customize the startup. So my startup, it shows my business name, It shows my business name, Moments by Cam. What other lens does that? None. And that's just something, you know, super cool. So you're able to customize these lenses however you want. You can change the name of the lenses or whatever you want to do. But firmware updates is super easy. And if I have any issues, I just go into the app and fix it right then and there. it's another reason why I'm loving Viltrox and why I'm, you know, just using Viltrox lenses from here on out. So Viltrox, if you're listening to this video or watching this video and you want to make me an ambassador, I'm already using your lenses, so hit me up. Anyway, the last thing is the rewards program that Viltrox has. So I got this lens, I got both these lenses off of the Viltrox website, and for every purchase you make on Viltrox, you get points. I think it's $2 or 2 points per dollar, or $1 per point, or 2 points, something like that. I think it's 2 points per dollar. And then for every 100 points is $2. So for buying both of these lenses, I got $60 in rewards, which I put towards that 28mm 4.5 chip lens. I could have put it toward an Air series lens, but I didn't feel like spending extra money. These lenses alone were $1,000. So I put that towards a chip lens, and then that was also on a 20% sale. So I got that lens for 20 bucks. I mean, the rewards program is great. And you know, something that actually, ooh, whoa. Something that isn't going to be talked about enough, and I guess it's not that big a deal, but you know, it's kind of cool. Both these lenses, even though one's a 1.2, one's a 1.4, even though one's a 85, one's a 35, they both have the same size filter threads, 77. And hopefully when they come out with their 85mm 1.2 lab and their 50mm 1.2 lab and 50mm 1.4 Pro, which is they're supposed to come out, they all have 77mm filter threads, which I think would be really cool to have consistency across the board. If you're using the same step-up ring, same filters for all lenses, you're able to do that. And obviously the weights are going to be different. So if you're using it for gimbal work, you're still going to have to rebalance. But I think that is a cool feat. So I am selling everything, moving over to Viltrox, because I just love everything that Viltrox is doing, everything they have to offer. If they make a zoom lens, then I will be over the moon. I don't know if they will, but the 85, the 35, they're coming out with a 50 later this year. They're also coming out with an 85 1.2 lab later this year as well. And then they also have their 135 1.8 lab lens as well. So if you're a prime guy like me, Viltrox, if you shoot Sony E-mount and you're a prime guy like me, Viltrox is the way to go for quality, for price, for autofocus, firmware updates, and for the rewards program. So this is not sponsored by Viltrox. They have no idea who I am, but this is just what I'm doing, and this is just why I'm switching. And if you want to go ahead and switch, go ahead, but I highly recommend Viltrox for everything that they're doing, especially the quality and everything of their lenses. So with that being said, that's it for today's video. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you are curious to see me do a video on this 85mm 1.4, stay tuned, and I will do this soon. I shot a wedding with it and did some other sessions with it, so I'm pretty pleased with that lens. Yeah, so with that being said, until next time, I'm holla at y'all. Peace.